What's up, y'all? I feel like a different world with this jacket on, but for those of you who remember, I bought this bag from Cape Town, South Africa in 2023, I think it was. I studied abroad there and I did some work with farmers, and we did a lot of fun work there. Anyway, I just want to highlight what this is this morning. Super simple. It is a Alabama blue collard green smoothie. And these Alabama blue collards I grew in my backyard, and I just harvested some. They're winter hardy, so they've been doing really well in the cold weather fluctuations. But anyway, I harvested them about a week or so ago, and I pulled some leaves out. The stems are in here. There's also blueberries. So blueberries is what's giving it its really deep dark color in addition to the Alabama blue collard. There's strawberries in here today. Pineapples, and then my homemade protein powder. I always like to say you can save money on protein powder. You don't have to go buy it because it's going to have extra stuff in it you don't need anyway. But you just get you some organic lentils and beans of any kind, honestly. You rinse them, well, you rinse the beans, let me be clear. Dry them off, put them bad boys in a blender, grind them up. That's a protein powder in and of itself. Chickpeas is probably the best one. You're gonna get the best bang for your buck. It's one of the only plant foods we know that we consider a complete protein, so always start there. But this has chickpeas, black-eyed peas, brown lentils, quinoa, yellow lentils, some organic textured soy, essentially, which we call textured protein. But it's basically just organic dried form of soy. And there's some millet in here and amaranth, all organic. And they really just grind to a fine powder. And then I just take a spoonful or two out and pop it in my smoothies. I sprinkle it across foods when I'm eating them, just to not only enhance the protein value and density, but nutrient density as well. And this is very sweet. It's good. My secret ingredient in all my smoothies is ginger, fresh ginger. When I'm out for some strange reason, I just use ginger powder, but there's nothing like that freshly peeled ginger. And it going in here, the one piece of advice I have, if you're going to blend with ginger, make sure you just finely slice it up so it's not all stringy and the texture is not really good for your palate. But yeah, this is really good. If you want to give it a thick smoothie texture, so to speak, ice cubes. That's really all you need to do. But I always blend my smoothies with water. Notice I didn't say juice. Notice I didn't say anything else. Blend, because I'm keeping all the dietary fiber that my body so desperately needs and desires to do what it does for my immune system, for the building blocks of all the different biochemical reactions that are happening at a cellular level. So this is how I aim to start every morning. Now, morning for you may be before noon. Morning for me usually is around noon because that's around the time I get to preparing this. If I batch prepare the smoothies, such as I make a large volume, I put it in glass jars, it's a little easier to grab in the morning. But when that is not the case, for a myriad of reasons, this is usually the first meal of the day. It does really well. It holds me for a couple of hours. And when I talk about holding, I'm talking about it helps me feel alert. It helps me feel a little bit more focused, and it gives me a lot of internal energy that allows me to read and write and research and do what I do. So I enjoy these. They are very filling. I typically don't mind drinking one of these for dinner per se, if that's what needs to happen. But this is really nice. And let me see how many ounces is on here somewhere. Yeah, I always fill it up to the max. So 21, it's usually more than that, 24 ounces. But yeah, so this is what I'm having this morning. And honestly, if you're fruit is prepared, meaning you've processed it, like maybe you've cut up the pineapple already. You all you need to do is rinse off whatever fresh berries you're adding in. It just takes the amount of time to blend well and then clean up behind yourself. So typically, because I like to clean up behind myself, we're looking at about 30 to 45 minutes of just cleaning and putting everything back in addition to blending. But if you're okay with rinsing things out and leaving it in the sink for later, then you could be done in about 15 minutes. So I think that's pretty reasonable to make a smoothie, or less. If you have everything, you're just dumping blend, then, maybe like 5 to 7 minutes. But I like to blend mine really well, especially when you're adding powder to this. You don't want clumps. There is an order of operations, but if you have a blender where you invert, then you're going to do the opposite. You're going to put your soft stuff at the bottom and your heartier stuff at the top. Your powder needs to probably go in such a way where when you pour the water, you're pouring it to really rinse that powder down in there. It makes it a little easier for it to blend and not to clump. You want to put your ginger closer to the top. But if you're blending a heartier green like collards, for these Alabama blue collards, then you definitely want that above the ginger. If you finely slice your ginger, you don't have to worry about that. So that's all for this, and I love this jacket. It's just what I'm wearing around the house today, but I think it's also fitting considering this is the King holiday season, so I'm representing the kings and queens from which I come, and honor the ancestors this morning for their fight, their drive, their insight, their labor of love, their DNA that's on the inside of me. And so, as I heard this morning at Providence Missionary Baptist Church, we thank God for Dr. King and the legacy, and his drive to fulfill his purpose is why many of us can do what we do today. And so if I make it personal, the drive that Dr. King had to do what he had to do against the odds, even when it felt like going uphill without a pedal, even when he felt like he was all by himself, even when he felt down and out and just wanted to give up, he kept going anyway. And deep down inside, somehow, some way today, hearing that from Pastor Damon really encouraged my heart. And I'm like, you know what? He's right. I'm going to keep digging my heels in. I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep fulfilling my purpose, living out the message, living out the power of eating more plants, telling people about that, trying to get churches engaged and on board, trying to get our communities engaged and on board. And, guys, it's really important. And I can't stress it enough, especially with all that we are seeing happen before our eyes. This open book test that we are failing in 2025. We are seeing it play out. And we can not only have resilient church communities when we think about the environment, but we can also have resilient homes where we live individually. We can plant our own gardens. It doesn't have to be huge and at scale, but we can do something. Not only does it feed us, your family, but it supports the environment. We can have energy efficient windows. We can put solar panels on our homes. We can eat whole plant foods that helps us to thrive, that helps us not to succumb to these conditions that they think we are supposed to genetically have, which are really a reflection of the lifestyles that we live. Come on, somebody. So I want to encourage you all to get out there and honor Dr. King, honor all the ancestors throughout this Kingian holiday season, throughout the month of February, even as we go into March, where we really highlight our women. And let's just really dig deep and focus on doing what matters. I had a doctor's appointment this week, and my doctor said something to me that I think applies to all of us. And she said, you have to always make room for yourself as you do life. And so you have to prioritize yourself amongst all things. And so as much as we all want to do it all, we can't, right? The reality is, if we look at what we truly value, our health, our ability to be fully present for our families, which means that helps us to be more loving and kind and all those things, we really don't have time to scroll. We really don't have time for drama. We really don't have time to entertain conversations and situations that are not adding value to our lives and pushing us in the direction of fulfilling our purpose. Dr. King was laser focused, and he had great support from his community in his family. And I believe if we all kind of channeled our inner Dr. King, we would see radical change beginning at our front door that would trickle out into our communities, that would change our regions. Let me back up. That would change our local governments, that would change our state government, and that would by default cause changes in our federal government. That's how change happens. That's the DNA of grassroots efforts. We all have to do our part individually. And when we do it individually, the collective impact is astounding. And so let us remember that as we move throughout the Kingian holiday season, which is going to go all through the month of February in my mind, and then on into celebrating women in the month of March. We can do it. And so let's start looking on the inside. We all have to make that decision. And as we make that decision, let's lock arms with those in our community and those around us, the places where we do life. Let's lock arms. Let's do it together because we do have the power. I'm the plant-based nutritionista here to inspire you to take your health back one meal at a time by eating more plants, moving your bodies, and of course, drinking plenty of water. Have a great day.